truth of revelation. There's a truth of revelation. Meaning that God can give a prophet revelation to guide. So, O you who believe, ati Allah, obey the messenger, and obey those in authority among you. Meaning that now human beings have to be able to internalize these truths and develop a structure, a joint interactive structure we call amanhum shurabainahum, by which to develop, protect, and guide the community life. But this guiding by truth is very important. We're gonna drill down on this. Why is this important? Because human beings are creatures of knowledge. What distinguishes us from the other living creatures on this earth that we come out of, that we're connected to as living creatures? Well, all living creatures have something in common. They all been created by Allah, and we all have common characteristics. What distinguishes our species? We're thinkers, meaning that we are creatures of knowledge. We change our life not in terms of genetic evolution, but our life can change based upon new knowledge. We can change our behavior on a dime. For some new influences to come into our life, some new information to come to us, or some new cultural phenomena that we want to connect ourselves, or aspirations that come out of our nature, because we're an aspiring species as well. We've got this karma principle. We have the spiritual dimension that's unique to our species that allows us to aspire. We call it karma. That's why mustaqim is important, because we're aspiring all the time. We want Allah to guide that aspiration. Make sure it's in the right direction, because the aspiration can take us off into some crazy directions in our life. What you aspire, what you connect yourself with, if it's not rooted in the haq, it can be rooted in all kind of crazy. You know, fantasy is a reality for the human being. Part of our karma principle is the ability to think beyond the limits of the physical creation. That's the karma principle in us. That means we can think beyond what is measurable and real. We just talked to the students, and I was talking to some family members about this year is the 100th anniversary for Disney. And they had a Super Bowl commercial on. And I was really touched by it, because these people, they can manipulate you. They manipulate your fantasies and emotions. I mean, these people are good. You can tell they make movies. 90 seconds at the Super Bowl, they're charging $7 million for 30 seconds. 90 seconds, that's $21 million they spent on that one commercial. $21 million for 90 seconds. So you got to be serious. You ain't playing, right? So if I was spend $21 million, that was just the ad. That's not the production. Production going to cost you several $million to produce this thing. Just the spot, $21 million. So what you gonna put out there is gonna cost you $21+ million to hit some people, hit millions of people for 90 seconds. So they put out, they're like the history of Disney, right? But they started out with all these beautiful connections with the human aspirations. With little girls, they always be little girls, oh, you gonna touch your heart. These little girls with their big eyes looking up, and then so they made the connection with women aspiring and looking. But it went through the history of Disney. You know how Disney started, and I tell this story a lot. With Walt Disney, 100 years ago, had an idea for a cartoon called Steamboat Willie. And that Steamboat Willie evolved into Mickey Mouse that evolved into a whole cartoon, that evolved into, then he got the idea for Sleeping Beauty, and that made him a millionaire after Sleeping Beauty. None of that was real. Not one of those, that Mickey Mouse wasn't real, Steamboat Willie wasn't real, Sleeping Beauty was a fantasy, but he was able to take people's fantasies, create a medium for their fantasy, and touch your heart so much so that you'd be willing to pay money to go and see a cartoon. When I was growing up, my mother took me to see Bambi. And that was, oh my God, this little poor little deer, his mother dies. Oh my God. So you get emotionally invested in cartoons. And they become a reality for you. Because part of the human nature is this fantasy, this idea of aspiration that exceeds the limits of the physical creation. So you'll connect with an idea, an aspiration, or a fantasy. So how you connect with those fantasies, with those ideas, can determine your connection with reality. Can you, is this a metaphor? Do you understand the metaphors being said with this? Do you see what's being said in the story, this fable, this tale? Can you learn from it? Or does it take you in another direction? So for Muslims, this idea of al-haq is very, very important, because the truth comes in two different forms for us. It comes in mukammat and mutashabihat. Allah says in this Quran, the ayat, some are mukammat and some are mutashabihat. Mukammat is what you know is real, what you can see from the physical creation, from your real life experiences that can be measured, that is mukammat, that is solid and firm, that is measurable. Mutashabihat connects to your aspirations, your idea to see a metaphor and connect it back to a reality. You know what blew my mind, because we're gonna get into that ayah the next few weeks in depth. Well, every time I would read that ayah, I would be touched, because Allah says, for those who follow just the mutashabihat alone, they are perverse, without taking into account the mukammat. If you follow the allegorical without connecting it back to that which is solid and real, you get lost. You get lost in your fantasies. If you get lost in your fantasies, you can be taken off course. They have got whole TV shows that show people how they get lost in their fantasy. One of them is Catfish, right? People get online and create these personas that's not them, and then they communicate through these personas, and they'll catch somebody's heart, and that person will fall in love with them for years. One situation, man was in love with this person for 10 years and never met them, right? Off of a fantasy. He wanted to be in love so bad, he would love this fantasy. And when in reality, he didn't blew his mind, because it was fantasy, it wasn't a real person. We live in a society. Now, I'm going to paint a picture now, going back to government. I'm giving you this idea of the dimensions of truth, because it's important for human beings to understand. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by the Creator with unalienable rights, of them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How did that's called the Declaration of Independence. That's the opening words of the Declaration of Independence. It started on truth and the creator. We hold these truths to be self-evident truth. That's the MECA. These people had Qurans. Thomas Jefferson had a Quran. When Keith Ellison got sworn in as in his House of Representatives from Minnesota, he blew their minds. He said, well, oh, you go sworn on the Bible? He said, nope, you got sworn on Thomas Jefferson's Quran. What you gonna do with that? How you deal with that now? Thomas Jefferson had, yes, because they were Masons. They were people that studied Islam. So he's using this idea of truth, and he didn't use God. He said creator, because creator is something that nobody can disagree with. You can't say Jesus, you can say Jesus and say Allah, you can say Buddha. No, the creator, because creator connects everybody. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with inalienable rights. You know what? That's a concept from Quran. Attaqullah alladhi tasaluna bihi wa arham. And reverence Allah, to whom you demand your mutual rights. Mutual rights. That your rights come from Allah and the wombs. So now these are thinking people. You're writing something to create a new governmental order. If you look on the money, it says Novus Order Cotorum. I forgot it. Novus Order Cotorum. New World Order in Latin on the money. They knew they were doing something new. They knew they were creating something different from what they were established with at that time. So they were using language that brought about this new consciousness. But here's the catch. They were speaking the truth. We hold these truths, they were establishing something on truth, to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by the Creator with inalienable rights of them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That was the Declaration of Independence. But then, once they won the War of Independence, they had to create a governing document called the Constitution of the United States. One is a declaration, one is a governing document. That Constitution sets out principles, but also structures for governing the society. And in that document, they enshrined slavery. They enshrined it. They said that they recognized that slaves were 3/5 of a human being for purposes of representation. They allowed slavery to operate in states and said you couldn't outlaw it for 20 years. They said if a runaway slave ran from one place to another state could return that slave. So now in one document, they said all men are created equal and have the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, slavery in itself means you have no liberty. It means, American slavery means I can take your life because you're property. You're no longer a human being, now you are property. So they're saying that for some this document was not really for all human beings, it was for some human beings. The statement is true. The aspirations are true. When you have to now govern, you have to make compromises with things that are not true or not good for the human being. And that's when they call the original sin came into American government. When the Constitution was written and enshrined something that was antithetical to the founding ideology. So they had a contradiction. You had the ideology, which was based upon truths, the creator, principles, and now you had this governing document in which you allowed slavery to exist, to deprive people of their life, liberty, and their pursuit of happiness. You can't be happy in slavery. We made it work. we made it work. Yeah, we singing spirituals and songs and making up stuff and trying to keeping our hopes alive, trying to survive that tremendous, traumatic experience. Just think somebody had domination of your life every day of your life. People have to, that's when that fantasy have to kick in. That's when your soul have to kick in to save you. Allah gives you a safety valve sometimes. So we became spiritual as a relief mechanism to get away from the heart, the realities that were unbearable, the traumatic realities that were unbearable. That's when the human being then kicks in to something, their fantasy reality kicks in. When traumatic reality is too hard. So that's why we have to recognize how these two realities work in our lives. What am I saying? We have a society now that has evolved, that we fought a civil war. You know, more people died in that civil war because of those decisions that those people made. Just 80 years later, over 600,000, close to 700,000 people died to fight that battle about slavery. The society tore itself apart because people couldn't make a hard decision when they created the document. They had to let this logic play out, and it played out to a point where it tore the society apart. The sons that were murdered, killed in war. That was a big, you know, more people have died in the Civil War almost than just about all the other wars in American history. Almost two-thirds of 1 million people died when the society was much smaller. Just about everybody in society knew somebody that died. Why? Because when they wrote those words had consequences. Those words play out in time. Those words take on a life. Words make people. Words create realities. Words create systems of reality. Words create whole social systems and cultures around those words. So now, if you're not careful with your words when you're creating these governing systems, they play out in a way that's going to cause damage to everybody. So the Muslim understands when you're in a community life that you have to guide by truth and establish justice. What are we dealing with today? And I'll say this before we transition to our closing. We're living in a society in which people, you know, the thing with slavery, and we don't have time because that's a multi-week discussion. The depths of slavery, the history is actually, so we're gonna go into it on Sunday. We got a presentation, so we're gonna go into it. With the history of African civilization, starting with Egypt, going through the empires of Northern and Western Africa, and how what happened with slavery, how slavery affected American progression, and how that brought us to Islam. We don't go through that whole history in an hour. But you can't do justice in an hour. So inshallah, we're just gonna hit on it. But here's the point. Truth is so important for Muslims to understand. This institution of truth is so important. Because once you let it into your society, you have to make certain choices. Remember we said governance is decision making, making choices all the time. Do I choose truth or power? Truth or advantage? Truth or wealth? That's what we're talking about. When they made the choice in writing the Declaration of the U.S. Constitution, they were making a choice between preserving their economy and creating a new structure by bringing in slave states with non-slave states and creating a United States. And they made a compromise with the slave states. The slave states had built an economy on slavery. Slavery financed the U.S. It created wealth. That wealth was turned into banking wealth. That banking wealth was turned into investment wealth. That investment wealth fueled the economy of the whole society. So they made a choice of wealth and power over the truth that they wrote down. They made a choice between, okay, how do we hold to our truths or lose money, lose power, lose the ability to progress in a society? That's a hard choice for some people. For the truthful, it's not. For the believer, it shouldn't be. We see that same thing happening today. There's a story, and I'll tell you this, then we'll let you go, because it's a perfect example of what we're talking about. You got a man that was president of the United States. And while he was president, the New York Times said this man lied over 30,000 times in 4 years. They documented 30,000 lies. Who does that? Who can lie 30,000 times before they documented it? It was like 30 plus. It might have been 30,000 lies. No compulsion. Prophet said, if you have no shame, do as you wish. Some people just don't have no shame. I mean, I can get by with the lie. The lies don't profit me. I can twist the truth, and I have some advantage by twisting the truth. And they use it. But then what happens? Yeah, people supporting him. They support him anyway, just like the framers of the Constitution. You're going to choose the truth, or you're going to choose the advantage of the power, because this man's bringing you power. So you choose the truth or the power. They chose the power. So now, when he loses the election, it was rigged. And he set about infecting the whole society. But you can't trust your election system. You have people get threatened, people called up. This poor sisters in Georgia, Sister Ruby Freeman and her daughter. People are calling up threatening them. They lied on them, said they was stuffing ballots. That's a lie. Pretty soon, half the society is up and out. They're about to murder the vice president, storm the Capitol. Millions of people about to storm the Capitol over what? A lie. A blatant lie. He knew he hadn't won the election. People had told him. He had commissioned, they came out this week, they had commissioned a private study to find out if the election was, the study, the people who they commissioned said it wasn't rigged. They knew it wasn't rigged, but he's using the lie to his advantage. He's He's mobilizing millions of people on a lie. He would be happy. He would be just like the Civil War. He don't mind if society gets torn apart if he benefits from the lie. You got people running. He had people, a whole state of Kansas, running for office, claiming that the election was rigged. Most of them lost. Just about all of them lost. You got the woman ran for governor, Carrie Lake in Arizona, just lost another court battle yesterday. Still said, well, the fight is still going. Woman, you lost. It was rigged. No, you lost. But you can't deal with the truth. You don't want the truth because now you have embraced lying as a part of who you are. You have, rather than take the hard choice of accepting truth, when truth hits you gives you a disadvantage, you reject the truth and accept the lie. The prophet Esau said, you are your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and both not in the truth because there's no truth in him. He's a liar and the father. That's why the Christians say the devil is a liar. That's where it comes from. John 8, chapter 39 verse. Is that the devil is a lie. Why? Because once you go down the path of accepting lies as a part of your life, it's going to take you into evil. It's going to take you into harming others, putting others at a disadvantage so that you can have the advantage. When Allah tells us he wants a community guiding by truth and establishing justice. You know, the whole justice system, as I close out, is built upon the concept of truth. I swear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me, God. So once you break that vow, the whole system begins to break down. Now we know in America, that didn't mean a lot. People lied, people didn't, and they still executed justice. But in order to have a proper justice system that guides by truth and stands on truth and establishes real justice, you have to have truth as a cornerstone of that system. So truth and justice go hand in hand. This idea of a community guiding by truth and establishing justice is a big thing. We have to take it seriously because you have to be the ones that promote that idea. You got to be the ones that say, no, we're not standing on lies. We're not accepting lies. We're not accepting your fantasies. We're not accepting because you want to be in power, you're going to create this fantasy that keeps you in power. And the reality says, no, you lost the election. And then you're going to mobilize people to stand on your lie. That's not acceptable. So that's how Muslims think, and that's why you have to be active. You have to be out there standing on these principles. You have to mobilize and work with others who share these same ideas, these same values, good people, and you have to be leaders in this society. Muslims are leaders in the society. Once you understand your religion, you can't be passive. No, we can't accept you lying. And it's okay. No, it's not. Prophet said, if you see a wrong, stop it with your hand, not speak against it. If not, hold it in your heart till you can speak against it or stop it with your hand. So it means that's an activist. We ain't passive people. If we see something wrong, we're going to speak against it or act against it. And inshallah, try to say it right if we can. We have the power to say it right. If not, we're going to talk it right. We're going to talk about it till somebody will be mobilized on people to make it right. So Muslim challenge, the Muslim mission never stops. Never stops. Once you know what Allah is telling you to do, you're ready. You're energized. You know what you got to do. Let's ask Allah's forgiveness. Novus Ordo Seclorum. Novus Ordo Seclorum. New World Order. These people were conscious of creating something new. And that's why Allah says, Allah begins the process of creation and repeats it. It's your turn. It's your turn. And you got to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because Allah has brought about a new mind, a new consciousness, building on everything that's good of the past. Anything that's good, we're taking it with us. Anything that's bad, we're leaving it our way. We're separating ourselves from it. If it's good, no matter who brought it, because that's Islam. If it's truth, we accept truth. Anybody can speak the truth. Truth ain't confined to one person or one ideology. Truth is universal. So if you bring a truth, we connected. You say I'm falsehood, we disconnected. And that's our mind. Inshallah. As we close out, just remind everybody, we got just sent everyone, hopefully most of you all, a flyer as a reminder. Hopefully you got it right before Jumuah. I texted out about our program on Sunday at IFP. Please try to be there early. They have Salat at 5:45. Get there before 5:45. Try to get there about 5:30, inshallah. Salat's at 5:45. The program's right after that. Then after that, when Isha, they're gonna have some snacks. They want us, they're inviting us as a community to come out and share with them. So we told we're gonna pass the word. They want a fellowship with us, and they want to learn about the history of Islam in America, particularly the African American experience. We laid the foundation for Islam, and they know it. We laid the foundation for Islam in America, and they know it, and they want to celebrate it. Particularly African American history month on top. So it's a double thing. We're gonna talk about Islam. We're gonna talk about the African American experience. We're gonna talk about the foundation of Islam in America and how that progressed, and understanding that everything is connected. As I close out, let me just remind everybody: everything is connected. Who you are is connected to a whole progression of realities that you didn't even see. That's why we believe the unseen. Because sometimes we are a product of things we didn't see or don't understand, but that produced us. So we have to sort that out in our own minds and our own lives and extract from it the good and draw from the guidance of Allah to keep improving and getting better in our life. Allah gives us a physical form. It's been evolving for billions of years. This form that we're walking around in has been evolving for billions of years. You had nothing to do with it. You inherited it. You inherited the good and the bad that's in it. Because as you get older, you're going to find on both parts. There's good parts to it, and there's some things will start breaking down. Okay, I got to live with that one. I'll be lucky because this is my gift. It came from my ancestry. I had nothing to do with it. All I had to reverence the wounds. Because you inherit things that you got to make the best out of, right? We inherit social circumstances that we have to improve upon. We inherit the human condition and the human progression. So part of our talk Sunday means we're going to give them a broader perspective in Islam in America. You have to understand this whole history of human progression, of the best of human life, the height of civilization, the height of human achievement, and the depths of slavery. All we're going to look at 5,000 years of history in an hour, focusing on the last 100 years. This last 100 years didn't happen in a vacuum. There's a 5,000-year progression that you have to understand because everything is connected. Once you understand that, you understand the aspirations of their souls. The aspirations for freedom, justice, and equality. And the vehicles they used to attain that. And religion and the deen was a primary vehicle when you understand that concept. Nastaghfirullah, nastaghfirullah, nastaghfirullah. Allahumma anta salamu wa minka salamu wa tabarakta. Ya dha jalali wal ikram wa barakata ba'dua. Ikama.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. Hayya salat, hayya falah. Kamatu salat, kamatu salat. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Allah. 2 rakas of the Jumu'ah prayer for Allah facing the Kaaba. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.